morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a good week. We are here at the lower part of our yard, right by the staircase that brings us down to the lower part of our yard, like I said. And we're just going to do some puttering around today. It is a little bit cooler. It's supposed to be in the mid-70s, but it is really humid out here. So it's buggy and it's damp, and it's just not the greatest. It's not the most pleasurable experience being out here. So we're just going to putter around. The two main things that I want to get accomplished today is on either side of these raised beds that I have that flank the staircase, I have these really tall gaura, and I think it looks really pretty here. I don't think that I'm going to transplant it into the garden bed for next year. Gaura tend to have really long tap roots. These are younger plants. I planted them in the early summer, so I'm not sure how much of the taproot has developed, but I kind of like the way they look right now, even though you kind of have to think pretty thin to get through this staircase. But I'm going to do some trimming back. But what I do want to do is take some cuttings of the gaura and root them so that I can put them in the garden bed that you guys had seen me work in last time, just to get some different pops of color in there. And I thought that this would work really well in there and look really pretty. So I want to take you guys through and show you how to do that. And then the other thing that I want to do is transplant some invincible hydrangeas that I had planted alongside the floating deck that we have down here. I thought it was going to look really good there and look really pretty for the space, but my son tends to practice his baseball there, and it really just kind of gets in his way. So I'm going to be transplanting those into a different part of the yard. I'm sure you guys have noticed, if you guys have watched a couple videos I have out, I do a lot of transplanting, and I think that that's okay for the most part. I think as you learn your space and things change in terms of whether it's full sun to shade or shade to full sun, or however even you use the space changes based off of you and your family's needs, you may end up having to transplant things. That is okay for the most part. You just have to, one, be mindful of the time that you're doing it to make sure that it's the most successful possible. Make sure that you're keeping that plant or shrub or whatever it may be watered, because that will also ensure the health of the plant as it's being transplanted. And you also have to remember that it can set the plant back. So the invincible hydrangeas that I'm going to be transplanting are still quite young, but it'll set it back a couple years because I'm transplanting it. You want to remember when you plant hydrangeas in the ground, whether it be a transplant or planting them in fresh from their nursery pots, it is really, really, really important to keep them watered. Hydrangeas tend to have shallow root systems, so if you're ever digging around your garden and you're digging around a hydrangea, you will find a lot of its roots almost at the top of the soil. So they can dry out really, really quickly because those roots don't grow deep down into the soil, so they don't go searching for water. So if the top layer of the soil dries out, which it tends to do really quickly in the summertime, or even in the fall if there's less rainfall, that hydrangea will suffer and potentially even perish because it's not in the right conditions. So before you get it established, make sure you are checking that and watering that very, very frequently. So we're going to be doing that here as well. With that, like I said, just some puttering around here and there, and that's all we're going to do for today. All right, so I've moved you in a little bit closer, and I am going to try to show you how I take clippings of the gaura and then what I do with it to try to root it. So I take some of these thicker stems in here and I just snip all the way down. So I'm going to try to take I'm going to put 5 in each container, so 10 total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And this doesn't hurt the plant. This is going to die all the way back down to the ground in the winter, and then it's going to flush out in the spring. But honestly, I mean, look at that. You can't even really see that I did anything. So now what do we do? All right, so basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to take these bottom leaves off, and if there's any stems, take those off as well. Pinch them off. And stick them into a pre-moistened, compost-rich soil. And really, you know, some people can get frustrated in terms of it doesn't root for them or whatever happens. Just keep trying. It took me a little while to get the hang of it. And honestly, if it doesn't work, you're not really out anything. And if it does work, great. You know, you've had some success somewhere. So we put 5 in there. We're going to put 5 in here. And what is going to be key is making sure that these stay nice and moist until they get some established roots. Oops. So in order to make sure that these stay nice and moist, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place them in a pot that has, in a Tupperware that has some water already at the bottom. And so this way I can make sure that if I forget to water it one day, it's still getting bottom watered. And that's literally it. So here is the little Tupperware. It's fairly shallow. I have some water in there. I have some of the Caryopteris and some of the quickfire hydrangea that I'm trying to root from the other day. And here's my Gara. And that's basically it. So we're going to check back in a couple weeks to see if it's starting to root. All you really do is take a little tug at it. And if it feels like it's firmly in there, leave it alone. Keep letting it root, and because what you don't want to do is tug so hard that you actually pull those little baby roots off, because then it'll die. So like I said, we'll check back in a couple weeks to see the results. All right, so here we are on the back side of our floating deck, where we had also built some garden boxes just to kind of help create some privacy and really enclose the space a little bit. And what I had originally envisioned was these beautiful Invincible hydrangeas just really spilling over the edge of the deck with those giant white creamy hydrangea flowers. And that's not really what happened. You can see it flopping all over the place. My son plays baseball right in front of it, and sometimes the ball would get away from him and fly into the hydrangea, breaking off the stems. And it looks terrible. So we're going to go ahead and transplant these. Now, one of the things that I noticed was this is also starting to get a whitefly infestation, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's these tiny little white flies, and that needs to be treated. So that is something that I've been dealing with a lot this summer on my pumpkin plants. It was all over on that side of the yard as well. So I'm going to be spraying this right now. Before I transplant it with Captain Jack's Dead Bug Brew. It works for a large variety of pests, especially, let's see, it has caterpillars, borers, beetles, bagworms, gypsy moth, leaf miners. But I'm going to be spraying it right now for the white fly. It should be okay. It's very still right now, so it shouldn't be, it shouldn't get around anything else. So it should be safe right? And then I'm going to go ahead, possibly trim it back a little, and then go ahead and get it transplanted to an area that has a little bit more space. right, so here is where they have ended up. I stuck one right in here. There was a hydrangeas there previously. I did move that out of the way because these Invincibles or Incredibles, excuse me, tend to get a little bit on the larger side. So I stuck one there. I moved the hydrangeas right over here, and then the other hydrangea right behind it. Now they look pretty sad. And I'm okay with that right now because I don't need them to be the star of the show right now. I'm more thinking long term for next year and what it's going to look like for seasons after that. So with that, I think I'm going to call it a day. It is incredibly humid out here. I think I've eaten my weight in bugs. There are so many of them flying around. And I think we're going to go inside and have some lunch. Hope you guys all are having a great day. Enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.